She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I did it because you weren't there, and I don't regret it." Something inside me broke. I didn't yell, didn't argue. I just nodded, went to bed, and let the silence do the work. But by then, I already had the perfect plan. She had no idea what was coming next. Then I got 100 voice messages saying, "Please call me back." Let's rewind a bit. My name's Michael, and I'm the guy who used to believe in business trips and client dinners and other corporate fairy tales. My wife, Emily, was a sharp, ambitious marketing exec. The kind of woman who could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. Confident, always dressed like she was walking off a magazine shoot, and full of charm. And I was the grounded one. Software engineer. Remote work. Laundry folder. Stay-at-home stability. We'd been married 11 years. No kids, just 2 cats and a mutual belief that we were a power couple. At least, that's what I thought until about 7 months ago. At first, I didn't think much of it. Emily had started traveling more for work. Chicago, New York, Austin. Back-to-back weeks of flights and 5-star hotels. Nothing new in the marketing game. But then the little things started piling up. She'd come home looking off. Not tired, not exhausted, more like refreshed. Hair curled in ways she didn't normally bother with. Her perfume game had changed. And her phone? That thing never left her side. Even in the bathroom. She started putting its screen down like it was rigged to explode if I caught a glimpse of the lock screen. Then came the nights when I'd call, and she wouldn't pick up. No text. "No, sorry, I'm in a meeting." Just nothing. Hours later, I'd get a vague, "Oh, I didn't see your call. Fell asleep. Long day." Yeah, well, so was mine. Watching my wife slip through the cracks of our life. I played it cool. Mostly. But in my gut, I knew something was off. So I started keeping a little log. Dates. Times. Conversations that felt staged. Outfits that were a little too put together for conference dinners. You might call it paranoid. I call it pattern recognition. Then one Tuesday night, she flew in from Dallas. I picked her up, and the moment she kissed my cheek, I could smell it. A cologne I didn't wear. Musky. Bold. Way too intimate to be an elevator whiff. "You okay?" I asked on the drive back, my voice even. She gave a tired smile. "Just exhausted. Long trip." "Why?" I shrugged. "You look happy. Not tired." That's when she looked out the window, smiled, and said, "Well, some trips are just good for the soul, I guess." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. My silence was louder than any argument. That night, while she showered, I did something I hadn't done in 11 years. I opened her suitcase. Just a peek. And what I found wasn't a smoking gun. It was worse. An unfamiliar men's shirt tucked at the bottom. Still had a hotel tag on it. The hotel wasn't even in Dallas. The shirt was crisp. Pressed. Smelled faintly of cedar wood and a lie in a bottle. It was the kind of button-up you wear for cocktails, not conferences. Pale blue with a tailored fit. Definitely not mine, and certainly not from Dallas. The tag read, Monarch Suites, Asheville. Asheville. That was not where her itinerary said she'd be. My pulse thudded in my ears as I folded the shirt back exactly the way I found it. I zipped up her suitcase like it hadn't just confirmed everything I'd feared. I didn't confront her. Not yet. She came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, steam trailing behind her. "Want to watch something?" she asked, casual as ever, like we were still that couple who curled up with TV and Chinese food. I nodded. Sure. We watched an episode of something I didn't hear a second of. My eyes were on the TV, but my thoughts were miles away, in Asheville, in hotel rooms, in lies and laughter that weren't shared with me. The next morning, she left early for work. "Kiss me on the cheek." "Love you," she said. I smiled back. "Love you too." She closed the door. I locked it behind her and sat down at the kitchen table with a legal pad and a pen. This was no longer just suspicion. It was data, evidence, a pattern, and I was going to map it out like any other complex problem I'd debug at work. I wrote down everything. May 17th to 20th, New York trip, receipts show Asheville. April 12th to 14th, team offsite, Jason's tagged post, same hotel lobby. March 3rd, late client dinner, she never came home that night. Jason. Of course it was Jason. He was in every photo at work events. Always next to her. Always grinning. And always traveling on the exact same days. I'd once asked, "You and Jason travel a lot together, huh?" She'd laughed. "Oh, it's not like that. He's annoying. Like a brother." A brother. Right. That evening, I checked our joint credit card account. hotel charges, taxi receipts, and 2 purchases from a boutique chocolate store in Asheville. A card that read, "For my favorite sinner, J." I didn't know whether to be sick or impressed by the boldness. But still, I didn't rage. I didn't confront. Instead, I backed up everything. Screenshots. Statements. I created a folder named Insurance. I even emailed it to myself and a backup address I'd made in college. Because once this went nuclear, I'd need proof. Over the next week, I was the perfect husband. I made dinner, rubbed her feet, asked about her day. I even listened, really listened, as she ranted about work, about how stressed she was, about how she could really use another trip soon. I nodded. "You should take one." She looked surprised. "You're okay with that?" I smiled. "Of course. You work hard. You deserve it." That night she lay in bed next to me texting someone with a grin she didn't bother hiding. I rolled over, my back to her, and stared at the ceiling. The shirt. The boutique receipt. The grinning Jason. I didn't know when I'd confront her, but I knew how I'd do it. I wouldn't just blow up her story, I'd rewrite it. The next few days were oddly peaceful. That's the funny thing about knowing. Once the guessing's gone, the mind quiets. She was in full prep mode for her next business trip, a 2-nighter in Denver. Or so she claimed. I smiled every time she mentioned it. "You sure you'll be okay here?" she asked, one foot in her suitcase, the other in a lie. "Of course," I said, stirring coffee. "I trust you." She smiled, that soft smile she used to give me when we first dated. Like we were still real. That smile used to light me up. Now it made me cold. I'd already called Denver's hotel she listed in her itinerary. No reservation under her name. No conference booked that week. But Jason? Jason had just posted a photo of a mountain view in Asheville. Again. So I played along. I offered to drive her to the airport. On the way, she played some chill indie playlist and tapped her fingers against her thigh. I watched her reflection in the window. She looked excited. That glow you can't fake. Not for your husband, anyway. "I'm gonna miss you," she said as we pulled up to the terminal. "Miss you too," I replied, and I meant it. I missed the version of her that used to be mine. She leaned in for a kiss. I gave her one, a good one. One to remember. Her eyes fluttered open, and she gave me a sheepish grin. "I'll text when I land," she said. I watched her disappear into the terminal, wheeling that suitcase like it didn't contain the remains of our marriage. I waited until her flight number was marked departed, then went home. And I called someone I hadn't talked to in a while. "Hey, Sam? You still dabbling in digital forensics?" Sam's the kind of guy who works in IT security and has a moral compass that bends depending on the coffee supply. He'd helped me once recover a wipe drive for a buddy's divorce case. "I need some data pulled. Old cloud backups. Texts. Photos. Voice memos." Sam didn't ask questions. Just gave me a drop-off address and said, "You'll have it by Friday." By then, I'd already set up the traps. I changed all our shared account passwords. Transferred my paycheck deposit to a separate bank. Called my buddy Derek, who's a lawyer, and said, "We need to talk prenup enforcement." That night, I poured myself a drink, opened my laptop, and settled in with a folder titled Denver LOL. The deeper I dug, the bolder it got. Voice notes from Jason. Photos. Memes about how mystery is magnetic. And then, a screen recording from her phone. Sent to him. It was her, in a hotel robe, whispering. If he ever finds out, I'll just say it was a work thing. He'll believe it. He always does. I exhaled slowly. Calm. Focused. 2 days later, she returned. I picked her up. "How was Denver?" I asked. She yawned. "Cold. Boring. Glad to be home." She tossed her suitcase in the trunk. I watched her fingers, wondering if she knew what storm was waiting just around the corner. She didn't. She unpacked like nothing had happened. Folded clothes, tossed the suitcase into the closet, and complained about the boring speakers and overcooked salmon from the event that didn't exist. It would have been funny if it weren't so sad. I watched her over dinner. Spaghetti, her favorite. She was back in her house, in her life, and didn't even realize she was standing on a trapdoor. It was surreal, like watching someone walk into their own surprise party, except the surprise was their entire life collapsing. "Everything okay?" she asked, twirling her fork. "Yep," I said with a nod. "You?" She shrugged. "Just tired. Thinking of taking a few days off." I smiled. "You should. You deserve it." She leaned over and kissed my cheek. I almost flinched. That night, while she slept, I reviewed everything Sam had dug up. There were texts going back 6 months. Mentions of our little Asheville escape, Jason calling her babe, and a note that stopped me cold. When were you planning to tell him? Or is pretending he doesn't notice part of the plan? Her response? I will. Just not yet. He's useful. Useful. That one cut. Not, he's a good guy. Not, I feel guilty. Just useful. The next morning, I made her coffee. Light roast, oat milk, cinnamon. Just how she liked it. I placed the mug gently in front of her. She took a sip, smiled. You're spoiling me lately. Just showing appreciation, I said. You work hard. She laughed softly. That's new. You used to be kind of distant. I didn't bite. No need to explain how I was distant because I thought we were building something together, not because I was blind. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Her phone buzzed. She picked it up, glanced at the screen, and her whole posture changed. She turned the phone face down, smiled at me awkwardly, and stood up. I'm gonna go shower. I nodded. I'll be down here. She headed upstairs, and as soon as the water turned on, I walked to the table, picked up her phone, unlocked it using Face ID while the screen was still active from her glance. Just like Sam coached me. Pulled up the messages. There it was. Jason, still thinking about you. Can't wait for our next meet. Her, me too. God, he's being so sweet this week. It's almost sad. I took a screenshot. Another. Then dropped the phone back on the table, exactly where it was. That night, we were in bed. She curled up beside me, placed her hand on my chest like nothing had changed. I'm lucky, she murmured. I didn't respond. She looked up. You okay? I turned to her, smiled, and kissed her forehead. Never better. And I meant it. Because the next phase was already in motion. Saturday morning, I suggested a little getaway. Just you and me, I said, loading dishes into the washer. We haven't done something spontaneous in a while. Her eyes lit up. Really? Yeah. Thought we could drive up to the cabin for the weekend. Disconnect a bit. The cabin. It was technically my uncle's place, 2 hours upstate. Secluded. Peaceful. No cell service. No distractions. And more importantly, no way for her to hide behind Jason's emojis or hotel aliases. She hesitated for a split second, just a flicker, but then nodded. That sounds nice. We left that afternoon. She packed a duffel bag with sweaters and a book she'd never finish. I brought my laptop, 2 burner phones, and the printed screenshots carefully folded and slipped into a leather-bound folder. The drive was quiet. She leaned her head against the window, humming along to the radio. I didn't speak much. I was focused on the road and on the moment just ahead. We reached the cabin around 4:30 p.m. Still light out. She wandered through the living room, brushing dust off picture frames. God, I forgot how peaceful this place is. I smiled. Let's make some tea. While the water boiled, I opened my laptop and pretended to work. She scrolled through her phone, then frowned. No signal. I feigned surprise. Really? Must be the weather. She sighed, but shrugged it off. I handed her the tea and sat beside her on the couch. Then I said it. Emily. I know. She blinked. Know what? I turned to face her directly. Calm. Measured. I know about Jason. I know about Asheville. I know you've never once been to Denver. The color drained from her face. What are you talking about? I reached behind the couch cushion and pulled out the folder. Opened it. One by one, I laid out the printed texts. Her handwriting. His name. Dates. Receipts. Hotel confirmations. Her breath hitched. You went through my phone? I went through our life. Because I wanted to know how long I've been living in a fantasy while you were off playing Mistress of Marketing. She reached for the papers, hands shaking. Michael, I can explain. Don't, I said, voice low. Don't insult either of us. She tried again. I swear, it was just back and forth at the start. I didn't plan for any of this. You did. I cut in. You meant all of it. And you meant it every time you texted him from the room next to mine. Don't play that game. She dropped her head into her hands. Then, after a long, heavy pause, she seemed the line that would echo in my skull forever. I did it because you weren't there. And I don't regret it. Silence. Not even the wind outside dared to break it. I stood up, walked to the fireplace, and stared at the flames I hadn't lit yet. My voice came out steady. I'm going to sleep downstairs. You have the bedroom. Tomorrow morning, we go home. When we get back, I want you out of the house within 48 hours. She didn't move, didn't say a word, just sat there, shattered. We drove home in silence. The kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, but from aftermath, the eerie quiet after a storm that took more than it left behind. She kept glancing at me. I kept my eyes on the road. The same road we'd taken on weekend trips, anniversaries, little escapes from real life. Now it just felt like the final drive of a failed campaign. A retreat. We got home around noon. She didn't unpack. She sat at the kitchen table like she was trying to remember how this house had ever felt like home. "I'll go to my sister's," she said eventually, voice hollow. I nodded. 48 hours. She stood, walked upstairs slowly, and I could hear drawers opening. Zippers. No crying. No yelling. Just slow motion damage control. That night, I slept like a man who'd finally put a ghost to rest. By Monday, she was gone. Took a suitcase, her toiletries, and the photo albums I hadn't looked at in years. I didn't stop her. I didn't ask where she'd go next. I didn't need to know. That's when the messages started. First, a simple text. "Emily, can we talk?" Then another. "Emily, please, just call me when you're ready." I left them unread. The next day, the voicemails began. The first was soft, hesitant. "Michael, I'm sorry. Please just. I don't know where to start. Please call me back." By the fifth one, her voice cracked. "I made a mistake. I know I did. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need to say some things. I need you to hear me out. Please." The eighth one? Angry. "Oh, so you're just going to ignore me now? After everything we've been through? You don't even have the decency to respond?" By the 12th, she was crying again. "I miss you. God, I miss us. I was stupid. I was lonely. I didn't think you'd even care anymore. Please, Michael, please call me back." I sat on the couch, phone in hand, watching the missed call count climb. By the end of the week, it was well over 100. 100 messages. 100 times she realized too late that she couldn't unring this bell. She tried calling from her sister's number next, then Jason's, then blocked, as if I wouldn't recognize her voice. Each time, I did nothing. Each time, the silence grew heavier. And the best part? I hadn't even started phase 2 yet. By voicemail number 117, I'd stopped deleting them. Not out of nostalgia, no, those days were gone. It was preservation. Strategy. Evidence. I started archiving them by tone. Pleading, angry, bargaining, desperate. There was a pattern to it, like a cycle of grief. She was grieving the version of me she thought would always be waiting, always forgiving. She was wrong. I'd spent years being the quiet, stable one. The guy who didn't ask questions, who trusted too easily, who loved her more than he protected himself. But now, that man was gone. She didn't cheat on a doormat. She woke up a tactician. That Friday morning, I made an appointment with Melissa Navarro, a high-end divorce attorney who didn't waste time pretending to like you. She didn't care about sob stories. She cared about leverage. I handed her a manila envelope thick with documents, screenshots, printouts, email records, voicemail transcripts, and a copy of our prenup. She skimmed through the material like a detective schemes through a confession. "How long have you been gathering all this?" "Since the shirt in the suitcase," I said. Her eyebrow arched. "Most guys come in here with a bad feeling. Maybe a vague hunch. You came in with a case file." I nodded. "I don't want vengeance. I want precision." She walks away with what she brought in. Nothing more. Melissa smiled faintly. "We can make that happen. Tell me about the prenup." "Standard clause, no alimony, no claim to the house. Business interests remain mine. But there's an infidelity clause too." She perked up. "Bingo. Proof." I slid over the USB drive. Photos. Messages. Audio. She's not denying it anymore. But if she tries? I've got a timestamped playlist of "I did it because you weren't there. And I don't regret it," looped 6 different ways. Melissa smirked. "God, I love my job." We discussed timing. Strategy. She advised serving the papers when Emily was somewhere public, controlled, as she put it. Emotional chaos thrives in private. I wanted impact without theatrics. I knew exactly where she'd be. Sunday brunch. Lily's baby shower. At that overpriced garden cafe where everyone wore linen and pretended their marriages weren't on life support. Emily had RSVP'd weeks ago. I didn't go. Didn't need to. At 11:38 a.m., Melissa's courier walked right into the brunch garden, asked for Emily by name, and dropped a cream envelope onto her salad plate. Certified. Sealed. Delivered. I got the first call at 11:42. Ignored it. Second call, 11:44. By the third, she realized I wasn't picking up, and she exploded into voicemail. You served me? At Lily's? Are you kidding me? What is wrong with you, Michael? You couldn't even be an adult about this? You're such a coward. Click. Then came the texts. Emily, this isn't over. You don't get to just erase me. Emily, you said you loved me. You promised. Emily, we've built a life together. You're going to throw it away because I made a mistake? And finally, voicemail number 121. The mask cracked. Her voice trembled. You were my best friend. My home. I know I hurt you. I was lonely. I was selfish. But I never stopped loving you. Please, Michael, please call me back. I sat in my office and listened to that one twice. Not because I was tempted, but because I wanted to remember exactly how far she'd fallen. She used to stand 10 feet tall in my mind. Now, all I could see was someone scrambling to rewind a tape that couldn't be unplayed. I waited until Monday. Then I sent her one message. Just one. Me. This is me throwing away what you already burned. Take care of yourself. Delivered. Read. Silence. For about an hour. Then Jason called. Yes, Jason. I didn't pick up. He left a message. Hey, man. I think we should talk. This has gotten out of hand. I didn't want any of this. I thought you guys were in an open thing. Can we just clear the air? He wanted to clear the air. I wanted to clear the board. So I replied. Not with words, but with a PDF. I texted him a copy of the prenup. Highlighted the clause that made everything he touched turn to ash. Then I followed up with a smiley face. 3 minutes later, my phone lit up again. Unknown number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail came through. She's freaking out, man. She's saying she's gonna lose everything. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but she's not okay. Just call her. Please. I didn't call. I didn't even listen to the next 5 messages she left me that night. I just added them to the folder. You see, when someone shows you what they're capable of, what depths they'll sink to, you don't dive in after them. You stay on dry land. And you build something better. By Tuesday morning, Emily had left me 6 more voicemails, each one an act in her unraveling. The first was composed. Cold. I hope you're happy. You've embarrassed me. In front of my friends. My coworkers. Everyone. You could have handled this like an adult. But no, you had to make a show. The second? Defensive. I didn't ruin our marriage, Michael. You were never present. You got so used to me being gone, you stopped even trying. You think I wanted to travel all the time? That I enjoyed being the one always leaving? I was doing it for us. And when I needed you to fight for me, you just let me drift. The third? Shaky. Quiet. I miss our mornings. You making that terrible coffee. The way you used to kiss my shoulder when you thought I was still asleep. It wasn't all fake. You have to believe that. The next 3? Just sobs. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, I met with Melissa again to finalize the paperwork. She smiled as she slid over the revised asset breakdown. She's trying to challenge the prenup. Claims she was under emotional stress at the time. I laughed. She's about 6 months late for that strategy. Tell her I'll mediate over email. With my lawyer CC'd. Melissa smirked. I did. That afternoon, I sent Emily one final message, not to negotiate, but to clarify. Me. You don't get to rewrite the story now. You had your chapters. I'm writing mine from here on out. Please have your things out of the house by Friday. If not, they'll be boxed and delivered to your sisters. Read. No response. But 2 hours later, her sister called. I don't want to get involved, she started, which of course meant she was already involved. But Emily's not doing well. She's barely sleeping. She cries all the time. Maybe if you talk to her. I'm not responsible for her recovery, I said. She burned the bridge. I'm just walking away from the smoke. Click. That night, I boxed up her things. Not angrily. Just methodically. Bathroom stuff. Closet items. That hideous ceramic cat she insisted on displaying in the living room. I wrapped it in 2 layers of newspaper. I found her wedding dress in the back of the guest room closet. I didn't even hesitate. Into the box it went. By Thursday, everything was neatly packed and labeled. By Friday, it was all gone. I didn't see her. Didn't want to. She must have sent someone while I was out. The key was left on the kitchen counter, next to an old photo of us at a lake from years ago. We were smiling, arms wrapped around each other, sunburned and happy. She wrote on the back in Sharpie, I meant it then. I flipped it over, stared at the 2 strangers on the front. It was a different lifetime, a different her, a different me. No more bags, no more boxes, no more messages, just silence. But not the kind that screams, the kind that heals. In that silence, I started rediscovering things. Peace. Clarity. Who I was before her. I went back to the gym. Reconnected with old friends. Started sleeping through the night without checking a phone that no longer buzzed with apologies. And one evening, I sat on the porch, watching the sunset over the neighborhood I'd once hoped to grow old with her in. I didn't feel bitter. I felt done. The house was quieter than ever, but it wasn't peace yet. After Emily moved out, I had a few weeks to breathe. I spent the time doing small things that meant everything, reclaiming drawer space. I had my brother Kyle over that Saturday. We sat on the deck, drinks between us, the spring breeze thinning out what was left of the tension. "She's gone for real?" he asked, eyeing the now vacant driveway. "Almost," I said. "Divorce hearings this week. Should be quick. The prenup's tight." Kyle gave me a nod. "Man, I still can't believe she tried to twist it all on you. If I hadn't seen the receipts myself." He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't have to. "Yeah, she's got a talent for flipping the script. Just be careful, Mike," he said. "Court's still court. She's not above playing dirty." He was right. And she did try. The courthouse was as bland and beige as you'd expect, a government building dressed like a DMV. I showed up in a charcoal suit, navy tie, clean shave. No emotion on my face. No theatrics. Just readiness. Emily arrived 15 minutes late. Her hair was up, makeup flawless, expression performative. She wore grief like a costume. A white blouse tucked neatly into black pants. Morning chic. Jason didn't show. Her attorney was a slick-looking guy named Brent who spoke like he was constantly in a deposition. Lots of phrases like, "as previously discussed," and "we must consider the emotional toll." I'd seen enough emails from Melissa to know she was going to eat him alive. And she did. The judge, a middle-aged woman with iron gray hair and zero patience for drama, called us to order. Brent started by arguing that the prenup was signed under emotional pressure and should be reviewed due to changing circumstances. Melissa responded like she was reading off a grocery list. "Your Honor, we have evidence of ongoing infidelity, deception, and willful abandonment of the marriage contract. The prenuptial agreement contains a clause specifically addressing infidelity. My client has not only honored the terms, but exceeded them. He has documentation, correspondence, and voice recordings, all admissible." Brent objected. The judge overruled. Then it was Emily's turn to speak. She took the stand, dabbed her eyes with a tissue that hadn't touched a single tear, and said, "I made mistakes. But Michael wasn't there emotionally. I felt abandoned. I made poor choices, but I never stopped loving him. I believe I'm entitled to spousal support given the emotional distress and the shared years of building a life together." Melissa stood up without missing a beat. "Respectfully, Your Honor, Ms. Hart's distress is self-inflicted. The agreement is clear. The breach is proven. My client has honored every financial obligation and taken no retaliatory action. We're not here to split feelings. We're here to enforce a contract." Brent asked for a brief recess. Melissa didn't even blink. "We're fine to proceed, Your Honor." 30 minutes later, it was over. The judge ruled in my favor. The prenup stood. Emily was awarded exactly what she came in with: her clothes, her car, and the chance to start over. No spousal support. No share of the house. No slice of the savings. Just silence. As we exited the courtroom, Emily turned to me in the hallway, her voice low. "You think you won?" I stared at her. "No. I know I healed." She opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to cry, but I walked away before she could decide. I didn't need one last monologue. I had closure. I stepped outside into the sunlight, let it hit my face, and took my first deep breath in months. No more looking over my shoulder. No more hoping she'd change. She already had, just not in the way I ever needed. It's strange how something so permanent, like a marriage, can end so quietly. No last-minute declarations. Just paperwork, initials, a signature, and a door that didn't swing back open. The morning after the court ruling, I woke up and didn't feel hollow. That surprised me. I expected sadness, maybe a gut punch. But what I felt was stillness. The kind that settles after a long, brutal storm. I made my coffee, sat on the porch, listened to birds instead of voicemails. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't mourning her. I was mourning who I thought she was. The version I built in my head. The one who came home late but still kissed my cheek. The one who called me babe on autopilot. The one who said, "I love you," with her phone face down, hiding lies in plain sight. That version never existed. The real Emily? She smiled despite the betrayal. She booked hotels for two. She looked me straight in the eye and said without hesitation, I did it because you weren't there, and I don't regret it. Regret. That word stayed with me. Because in the end, it wasn't just what she did, it was that she didn't regret it. That was what broke me. But that's also what saved me. Because it forced me to become someone new. Someone stronger. Not bitter, just better. Sharper. Wiser. A man who could look himself in the mirror and say, you gave your best. And now you're free. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I got one last message from her. It was short. Just a photo. Us. From years ago. The beach trip. The one where I carried her sandals because the sand was too hot for her feet. We were smiling, sunburnt, ridiculous, happy. She captioned it. I wish I'd stayed in that version of us. I stared at it for a moment. No reply. Because that version of us? It wasn't real. Not anymore. Today, I live differently. Not just alone, but on purpose.